Designing a book cover is fun but challenging. You need to create a visual gateway to an author's story, so you need to have a good understanding of both the plot and what the author likes. In this video, I will analyze a design contest for a book called The White and share my thoughts what makes the winning design stand out from the rest of the entries. Sometimes when you work with clients, you would get too less information. Sometimes you might find clients who give a little bit too much information. Now, I'm not saying that this contest had a little bit too much in the brief, but definitely there's a lot of information to consider. So whoever entered this contest on 99 Design had to really pay attention to every detail mentioned, not only in the description and the requirements, but also in the references that the client provided, because there were quite a lot of those as well. So examples and inspiration of other book covers. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and have a look at the important details here in the brief. Once I cover that, I'm going to go through several entries and compare them to each other and show you why I think the client chose the winning design. A couple of key things to notice immediately is that they want to have a minimal cover. They would like to attract the eye of a teenager as well as a mature young adult. The background of the book should be mostly white because the title of the book is also The White. And it is actually a really interesting story. It basically starts with three characters just noticing that they died and they end up in this completely white space and they need to recreate the world for others to be able to join them. So quite interesting story. And you will see the book cover later and the author's name. So if you're interested, you can look into it. But I would like to just also highlight a few additional things here. The client is asking to avoid showing faces or too much detail of people. They would prefer to see words and again, less images. It's fine to use a splash of color, which could be orange and yellow, which the main character likes, or it can be blue, which is a reoccurring color in the novel. Now, I'm jumping around in the description, but as a designer, you need to make sure that you read the brief always carefully and go through it a couple of times and take notes. Now, you can take notes on paper or you can print out the brief and you can highlight things on it. But the best tool, in my opinion, is Milanote. You can see here I created a board specifically for this contest just to show how I would have prepared to make sure that I cover everything that the client mentioned. Now, I'm not going to go through the brief in too much depth. Instead, just show you here that I would normally create three categories. One that the client would like to have. So we already seen background should be mostly white. The main character likes orange and yellow. The audience are young adults. And then these additional points, which I didn't show you in the brief, were also there. So the client would like to have a handwritten font and ideally just a single font, which should look like the main character's Miles' handwriting. So it should look rushed and maybe have even some spelling mistakes. And with that comes also a bit of humor should show in the cover already, make it modern, minimalist, playful, casual. And apart from these main details to incorporate, I would create a separate category for things that I need to pay attention to, which is not really required, but might be useful. So in this case, because the brief was quite extensive, the client mentioned a couple of things like maybe a splash of colors might be good. So that's in the possibility section, or the fact that this book is the first of a series, and if the designer is doing a good job and make it sure that it can be turned into a series, then most likely they will get the whole gig, so all the covers for the next books. And then apart from what we see here in this section, I also always create a category where I include the things to avoid. So we've already seen that the client wouldn't like to see faces and people, or even if we use them, just use them in a very subtle way. And also the client said that they don't really like serif fonts to be used on the cover. They much prefer to have instead these messy, chaotic handwriting that we can see here on the inspiration. Now, they also highlighted a reference that they love the most, so I make sure that I mark that up and also have a label here saying that's the best reference, so I can keep an eye on it while I'm working. I also included the colors, and this is a really cool thing that in Milanote you can just put in the hex code and it automatically turns it into this little swatch box. So Milanote is a brilliant tool for making notes and keeping an eye on everything all in one place. And it took me only around 20 minutes to put this together based on the brief. And believe me, if you start a contest or even just a normal work with a client, having something like this, it will save you so much time and it will make sure that you remember to check all those boxes that the client wanted. Milanote is a free tool to try, so just go to milanote.com/yesimAdesigner. You can also find the link in the description below, and I'm pretty sure it will quickly become one of your favorite tools to work with. But here we go. These are the first entries that I wanted to go through. So going back to the things that we've seen from the brief, especially from that checkbox that I created, we can tell that there's already a couple of mistakes here. So we know that the client didn't want to see faces or people on the cover, so this probably already is too much. And also we have quite a lot of people in here, even though they are illustrated, it's a little bit off the brief. I'm not saying it's a bad illustration or a bad cover, it's just not following really what the client wanted. On this one, we have a forest in the background, and although the client mentioned that one of the themes of the book is that these characters are recreating the world, and that white space they are covering up with forests and mountains, but I feel like it is too much emphasis on the forest, especially using a photograph when that was never mentioned in the brief. So that is a big mistake, and also it's a big mistake that it's supposed to be purely or mainly white, the background. So this one is mainly black, and even the text is not properly white. In terms of white space, this other book here is better, and it has again a reference to something that the characters are creating, mountains. But once again, it's not really like the main theme of the book, so it doesn't really work, and that's, I think, why the client declined this. Same problem here on the right. We have again a character, even though it's a skeleton, it's still a person in a way. And apart from representing death, which is also in a way theme of the book, it's not going to really hook the audience that the client wanted. This cover is more interesting and there's a lot of work went into it, I can see that, but once again it's a bit too much illustration and not enough text. That was an important part of the brief again, that they wanted to focus on the typography, and especially having handwritten typography, not sans serif or serif fonts. Plus, again, there's too much emphasis on death. So we have 3 skulls here. It's almost like a pattern in the background. And the background, again, although it has a lot of white, but it also has quite a lot of black. So these 6 entries, in my opinion, were the furthest away from the brief. But I would love to see what you think, so that's why I marked them up. So in the comment section below, you can refer to them. And if you have anything specific to say, just mention, let's say, A3 got this wrong or got that right, and that's why I like it. So make sure you use the comment section below for that. But moving on forward, in the next page, I have a few examples where, again, one specific detail was really highlighted or emphasized, and in that case is the coffin. Now, I think the client probably really liked this one because of all the text in the background and even within the coffin, but I feel like, again, it was a little bit too much emphasis on death. This one, on the other hand, is really clean, but has the handwritten text that the client asked for and has a subtle hint of death by having the coffin. But I really like the way it was turned into a fold or something that was torn out of the page of the cover. So that creates a cool 3D look as well. And there was an inspirational reference where there was a torn paper and the client mentioned that they like that. So it is a very smart combination of many things. But still, I feel like a little bit too much emphasis on the coffin. Same thing here, too much emphasis on death. However, this collage style works much better than the previous examples where we've seen photographs being used. Here, it looks more like the main character could put this together. So as we know, the character is usually rushed, makes spelling mistakes and stuff like that. So this could actually be his work. And that was one of the things the client said, that they want to make the cover look like it was created by that main character, Miles. Now here on the right, we have a very minimalist design with quite a big emphasis on the coffin once again. It's actually used in a clever way to replace the letter I, so that's quite smart and clever. Also incorporating the orange color and matching it with the name here on the top and a couple of additional details here at the bottom. So we will see this actually being used in a couple of these covers. And that's fine because that was mentioned. A splash of color on a mainly white background is what the client wanted. Again, we are missing the hand lettering. Instead, we have two sans serif fonts. And specifically, it was mentioned by the client that they wouldn't like to see multiple fonts on the cover. Now, moving on the next page, we can see that there's again another batch of interesting covers and there's a lot of improvement here. So we are getting closer and closer to the winning design, but these were still not incorporating everything that was mentioned in the brief. So once again, remember, that is why it's good to have a place where you keep track of everything, and each time you do a design, you literally go through step by step and check everything. Make sure that you included the things that the client asked for and you avoided the things they didn't want. And then from the possibility section, you can try to include a few, but you don't have to include all of them. Before we continue, I just wanted to let you know about our creative membership program. For a small monthly fee, you get access to over 200 hours of Adobe certified online training courses. Master all the tools and skills needed to become a professional graphic designer or illustrator. As a pro member, you will get mentoring from me and my team, access to webinars, student forum, and creative briefs to help you build an outstanding portfolio. Pro members can also download the project files for all of our YouTube tutorials. Sign up at yesimadesigner.com/memberships and start your free trial today. And now let's head back to the tutorial. So with this cover here, I really like the division between the black and the white details, and also how the story is in a way told here at the bottom part just with silhouettes. But once again, it might be a little bit too much illustration and less text on the cover. Remember, the client preferred to have more text, less illustration. Compared to this, on C3, we can see that the text or the title is turned into a pattern in the background, but the problem is, instead of using yellow as a highlight color, it's actually became the main color in the background, while the client wanted to have the background white. What I would have done is to keep it completely white, have the pattern of text in black, and maybe just one of them, maybe somewhere around here, turned into orange or yellow, which would stand out, and that would become the title of the book. The reason why we see parachute on a couple of these designs and also falling is because that's also part of the book. That's one of the themes that was mentioned in the brief. So that's actually really smart and clever combination, the parachute and the coffin together. Now C5 here at the bottom looks good because it looks like someone hastily put together some notes and just scribbled onto the cover, and that works really well with the personality of the main character. And I also quite like the idea to have a division with this torn paper, but I think it breaks up the page too much and it actually makes me focus more on the bottom because there's more color there. So you have to be very careful with drawing too much attention to certain parts of your cover, and maybe if it was desaturated instead of being yellow, it might have worked better. Now here we have another page where the entries went down really close to the main reference that the client pointed out, which would show this very messy backgrounds and scribbly text and typos, crossed over text, so on and so forth. And I think these are really good. Mainly, I think why the client didn't choose them is because they didn't like the handwriting. So with handwriting, there's so many different styles you can do, and you really need to experiment and try to match the references that the client provided as much as you can without completely copying them. So just simply doing a handwriting when handwritten font was asked is not enough, because everyone's handwriting is different. But when you are good at doing hand lettering, you can actually match so many different styles with your own handwriting. Or if you are not good at hand lettering, you can just find a font that works. So a handwritten type font. And even with that, you don't need to rely on it purely, you can always refine it and amend it to make sure it works, especially on the title and the author's name, because those are the crucial elements of the cover. So all of these are really close to what the client wanted, but still I feel like they were lacking that type of characteristic on the hand lettering that the client liked. And then we reach the last page before we will see the winning design, where I included all the 5-star entries. Now, if you're not familiar with the way these contests work, the client can include stars to show which one they prefer the most. Now, these were all marked as 5 stars, meaning they most likely were all runner-ups to win. Once you become a runner-up, you have more chance to discuss things with the client and work with them more closer to refine your design and increase your chances to win the contest. So I'm not going to analyze these, I'm just showing them to you and show how close they are all to each other and also to the winning design. And this is one of the things about crowdsourcing design contests that a lot of people don't like. The fact that all of these designers work really hard and then at the end they don't get anything. And I agree with that in a way. So I also would feel really let down if I put lots of hours of work and I'm really passionate about the project and then at the end it's completely declined and I don't get a penny out of it. But what my take on this is that you should do these crowdsourcing projects if you want to improve your skills, you want to get better, and you want to just simply experiment with new styles that maybe you haven't used before. So don't take it too seriously and try not to feel like you lost if you didn't make it to the runner-ups or if you didn't win. Just taking part and learning from the process is what's going to help you to become better at design. But be careful because it can be discouraging. So if you are easily discouraged, these type of contests are not really a good way to learn. On the other hand, you can use this as a way to improve how you can take criticism, because at least here you are not meeting clients face to face. So you have in a way security of your own space where you're working and you just get the feedback. And if they didn't like your work, no problem, you can move on and do another contest if you wanted to. But always make sure to try to learn as much as possible from each contest that you take part in. That's the biggest win, not the actual prize that you can win as a winner. It's all about learning from the process. So after all of these entries, now we got to the winner's process. So we can see a couple of versions which are very similar to the winning design. There's only subtle differences, mainly on the spine that probably the client asked for. But Maria did an amazing job on capturing pretty much every single detail that the client asked for. So all of those points that we included on our board in the incorporate section, and even some of the possibilities were explored in this one single and simplistic design. And now you've seen these different versions. Let me show you the actual winning design. So that's the one that the client chose. And if we go to the portfolio of this designer on 99 Design, we can see that she already also worked on the second book, The Grey. So it works really well as a series. Again, something that the client mentioned in the brief. I also really like the other work from Maria, and if you want to check out her portfolio, we included the link in the description below. She won 6 contests already and she was runner-up in 4 other ones, but she also had 7 one-to-one projects. And that's a really cool feature on 99 Design as well, where a client can work directly with the designer. And I'm pretty sure one of these projects was the book Grey, where the client already knew the designer, so they approached her directly, but still through 99 Designs. Thanks a lot for watching. Like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever we release new videos. Click on the link on my right and start your membership today to get access to over 200 hours of training courses and personal mentoring by me and my team of creative professionals. Have fun learning, guys, and I will see you in the next one.